Hey, what's up? It's Mr. Dean and I love Mario sports games. I mean, it makes sense. I love sports, I love Mario. Cram them together and you have a masterpiece. Yeah, so I've always enjoyed playing the Mario sports games, at least the ones that I've gotten around to playing before, due to their zany and goofy portrayals of real-life games like tennis, baseball, golf, and so on. As for the Mario tennis games, I have played Mario Power Tennis, and that's about it. I played Mario Tennis Aces too. That game does in fact also exist and I sold it about a year and a half ago, so I unfortunately could not get gameplay of it as of right now. Because of this, I feel like it's time I go back and visit some of the classics and slowly work our way up to the newer sports games and see what the groundwork for these games originally look like. Fun fact that I just learned from writing this video, but Waluigi was first introduced in this game on the N64 and I don't really know what to make of this information. Actually, yeah, I do. Waluigi is annoying, so -1 point for this game on my non-existent arbitrary scoring system. Right away, the foundation for what makes Mario Tennis games so fun is immediately present, both from the standard and special modes found. First of all, the gameplay feels pretty tight, although the N64 hardware's limitations are definitely noticeable. It didn't detract from my enjoyment of the game at all. As with basically any N64 game I've ever played, like after the first few minutes I forgot I was even playing an old game, to be completely honest. Also, this is going to be the case with probably any retro game I cover on this channel, but I am not playing this on original hardware. This is using the N64 expansion pass on the Switch and I don't actually own an N64 controller at the moment, so I will be using the Switch Pro controller. Does this affect how good the game is? I don't know. The controls of this game do have a bit of a learning curve, specifically in learning what cases are most effective to use each type of shot. For example, pressing A lets you perform a normal topspin shot, also double clicking it adds power, and holding A performs a charge shot. All of this applies for B as well, which does more of a curvy and slicey shot. It gets slightly confusing when you have to memorize that quickly pressing A and then B in succession will do a lob shot, so if the opponent is close to the net and you need to get it over their head, then you can do this. Or vice versa, clicking B and then A does a low and short shot. It didn't take too long to get used to how everything worked, and once I did learn it, rallying got to be so satisfying. Not specifically about the controls, but quick complaint about the camera. I don't like how whenever the sides switch, the camera doesn't switch with you. Sure, it would kill the immersion, but it also just frustrated me having to play from the other side of the court. Maybe that's just me, I don't know. Now, as for the character selection, we got what I think is a pretty solid one. The characters are split up into 5 different classes, each slightly altering the gameplay and excelling at specific things. First, Mario and Luigi, who are all around, meaning that they are rather balanced and aren't superbly excellent or poor at any specific trait. Waluigi, Peach, Daisy, Toad, and Shy Guy are all the most precise players in the game at the expense of power and speed. Bowser, Donkey Kong, Wario, and Donkey Kong Jr. are, well, the most powerful characters in the game. Also, Donkey Kong Jr. is unlocked by completing a tournament double round through the Star Cup, and Shy Guy is unlocked through the same thing but with a single tournament. More on what all that means in a second. Baby Mario, Birdo, and Yoshi are the fastest players, and finally, Paratroopa and Boo are the tricky players, aka the most annoying and insufferable. Their shots curve the most, yeah, have fun playing against these. Alright, now as for the gameplay, we do got some pretty fun modes here. Of course, you have your basic exhibition mode where you get to select how many players and what court you want to play on for some good old-fashioned no-nonsense tennis. I've seen some people say that this mode is more fun than everything else, and I just do not get it. If I wanted to play real tennis so bad, I would actually go to a court. I live in an items and insanity Mario Tennis household, okay? There are multiple different court types in this game as well, specifically affecting the ball speed. What I gathered from this is that the faster the ball speed, the more fun the game is. Tournament mode is the same thing, but in a tournament format, with the matches slowly getting harder and harder. I still was able to beat the Star Cup, which is the 3rd and highest level, on my 2nd attempt, so it isn't that hard. I will say that if you like the more realistic version of tennis in this game, with the heaviest air quotes around realistic that is possible, then the rules do follow those of real tennis pretty accurately, at least to my understanding of it. I'm not as familiar with tennis as other sports, but it definitely does feel like tennis. Even little things like how the boundaries of a singles match versus a doubles match works, or how only the receiving player can return a serve, makes it feel more authentic. But none of that really matters because there's a strong assortment of special modes, which, let's just be completely real, that's why we're all here. First up is ring shot, which is where you try to hit tennis balls through rings in order to accumulate points. There are 4 different variations of this mode. These all revolve around the same basic premise, but slightly slightly deviate from one another. First is game, where it is set up like a normal tennis game, but your goal is to reach whatever the specific point total required is. It starts out at 30, so you need to get 30 points via hitting the tennis balls through the rings, but the catch is that you need to win a rally in order to actually get your points. So you could have a really long rally where you get an absurd amount of ring points, but then the opponent hits the ball past you and you don't get any of it. I like how there's a good deal of strategy here. For instance, you have to decide whether you want to prioritize hitting through the rings or just take whatever points you have already gotten and win the point in order to go for it again the next turn. It's pretty fun. Next is the timed ring shot mode. Same overall concept, but instead of the game keeping track of the rounds as a normal tennis match, there is a timer that counts down and you have to get through enough rings before the timer hits 0. This one is really good. If you lose a point or win a point, then you or the computer just serves again like normal, but you will lose a few seconds as the clock has no intentions of stopping for you. The ball mode is probably the most boring out of these four. You just have an assortment of chances to get the points that you need, kind of like a stock system. This prioritizes keeping a rally going over anything else. It isn't bad, I just prefer the other three. And finally, the points mode, which has an interesting concept of the rings changing size and the size of them dictating how many points you get for hitting the ball through them. The smaller the rings are, the more points you get. So there's a lot of strategy thinking about, okay, do I go for a smaller one with a smaller hitbox and it being less likely that I successfully hit it, or do I play safe with a bigger one? Overall, the entire ring shot mode was just simply more fun and engaging than the normal tennis game modes, and that isn't to say that those are bad or anything. I just am not hopping on a Mario tennis game to play basic tennis, that's all. The next game mode we got is Bowser's Stage, which just so happens to be my favorite thing in the whole game. Basically, this is what separates the boys from the men when it comes to this game. Either you enjoy the frantic and insane gameplay of this, or you hate fun. Now, I won't say that this game mode is perfect. To be honest, there might be a bit too much going on. Well, at least if you're playing doubles, but also I feel like that's kind of what makes it funny. I happened to pick doubles when testing this mode out, and while yes, it was not perfect or anything, that's also not why I run Bowser's Stage. It's to make the tennis match absolutely f***ing crazy. No one is getting on Bowser's Stage to play a mundane and normal round of tennis. That's just not what it's there for whatsoever. Oh yeah, so I still haven't even said what it is. Basically, think items from Mario Kart, where occasionally you will get an item by hitting the tennis ball through an item box, and whenever you do, craziness will quickly follow. Whether it is a lightning strike or attaching a banana to the ball, this just makes the game so much more fun. I'm sorry. Like I said, totally understand that this isn't everyone's thing, it's just very much my thing. Also, the court that this mode takes place on makes sure to turn the stupidity of the match to its fullest potential because it has every intention to move all over the place. Like I said before, this just makes it so I have more fun playing this mode. It is just so crazy. Also, there is Piranha Challenge, where piranha plants will hit balls for you to return with another player moving around trying to block your shots. This is good to have to practice your movement and aiming your shots and whatnot, but it just wasn't as good as the last few modes or anything. There are also a few special modes, which is the big head scratcher of this game. From what I gathered, there are 4 different modes here that definitely exist, that's for sure. The first 2 are tiebreaker modes that are either 5 or 7 rounds that are played with other live people. No AI is found here. I mean, other players that are in this mode specifically can play the same character, which is the only situation in this whole game that is possible, but aside from that, I mean, it's a cool inclusion, I guess. Ring Tournament was a feature that allowed players to submit their high scores to a website way back in the day, which is really cool looking back, but not much I can do to play this feature now, at least as far as I can see. And finally, the dumbest inclusion I've seen in a Mario sports game, the demo mode. This lets you just watch CPUs play a match. Why the actual would I want to do this? Yeah, I love Mario Tennis, but not the part where I actually play Mario Tennis. Thankfully, this mode lets me just sit back and watch. Also, as for the other unlockables in the game, you got a ton of courts to unlock, some of them requiring playing on the Game Boy Color Mario Tennis to unlock, which in my opinion is dumb. The feature itself is already stupid, because why is 5 different courts locked behind the purchase of another game on an entirely different platform? But also, this is stupid because how the f do I even unlock this now that it's on the Switch? That Yoshi court looks pretty cool, and Yoshi is my favorite character. Too fucking bad I can't play on it. Anyway, most of the other courts you unlock by beating the Mushroom or the Star Cup with specific characters, or the Piranha court, which you need to get a perfect score on the Piranha Challenge. Also, there are characters that you can only play via the Game Boy Color version, and fucking why? Also, when you do a complete tournament with a character, you unlock them as a star character, which from what I could tell just enhances their stats when equipped. And with all that we just went over, that's the gist of Mario Tennis on the N64. Aside from the locked content from other consoles, I had a great great time playing this. Maybe not my favorite Mario sports game or anything, but it was pretty funny. I like this whole idea of a Mario sports game just being a super crazy and zany version of its real life counterpart, which gives me a reason to play it. There isn't anything wrong with playing a sports game that is more realistic and tame, but I don't know, there's just something so charming about this style of game. Yeah, so Mario Tennis on the N64 is pretty good. And now if you'll excuse me, I'm trying to watch two CPUs play each other in Mario Tennis while I do absolutely nothing, because that's the best feature of the game.